Are you ready to stop riding the emotional elevator of life? Are you ready to learn how to elevate your emotions that keep you psychologically traumatized or in an addictive behavior? You are in the right place. Here is your host, Sandee Byrd, trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach of the Emotional Elevator Show.
Welcome, everyone. I think I need to change that a little bit. It says life and spiritual coach. What I am is I am a self-development coach that develops you through the changes of life or trauma. But I am Sandee Byrd. I am the host of the Emotional Elevator on Inspired Choices Network. If you're listening to me live on anywhere else, please come over to the chat room so we can have a talk about change. So today I did a faux pas. Didn't realize I did a faux pas. But I put a post out there all about how I did Kundalini this morning, and we did all about change and transitions in life, which matched up with my podcast. And as soon as I posted it, I didn't realize until this afternoon that I put 6:30 and not 7 p.m. Someone right away someone reached out to me and said, "You changed the time of your podcast." What do you mean you changed the time of your podcast? I didn't change the time of my podcast, but I accidentally said I did. And boy, did I get a response. I did not. But I am Sandee Byrd. I am the host here of the Emotional Elevator. And what I am is I am a self-development coach. And what I help people self-develop through sometimes is just learning how to change who they are or to elevate themselves when they've gone through a severe trauma. I myself have gone through a lot of trauma. I deal with clients who've gone through trauma, but it's how to elevate yourself and how to start working on what it is you want for yourself. And that is sometimes making changes. So that's what tonight's topic is about. But also, what is a self-development coach really? What I am as a self-development coach is I can be anything to help you elevate yourself when it comes to who you want to be in life. If you are unsure of what your purpose or your passion is, I have tools to help you figure out what your purpose and your passion is in life. If you are unsure if those values and beliefs are really your values or beliefs, or if they have been conditioned in you from society to social to family to religious beliefs, and you are very unsure about them, I also help. That's part of self-development, is realizing who do you want to be? Developing yourself, because a lot of times a lot of us walk around as these trained robots because we have already been conditioned as to who we think we're supposed to be. That's not who we want to be. So that's what I do, and that's what my coaching is about. But I also work with women who are in that midlife discovery. I'm rediscovering myself again, which means I am going through another change in my life. And what does that mean? What that means is that I went from being in my 50s. Yes, I'm proud to say I am 55. I am very proud of my age because I've gone through a lot of transitions in myself. And what I learned from my mother-in-law, my last episode was on grief because I lost my mother-in-law. She was 100 and a half, and I spent 2 years helping care for her. And what I learned from her is that at 55, I could still have 40 years to go, 45 years to go. That's almost another half of a life. So do I want to stay the person I was that I was unhappy with? Did I want to stay in those values or beliefs? No, I did not. I wanted to recreate who I was because here's a lot of part of it too. I was associated as being a wife and a mother and a board member of a football league, a referee at wrestling. Yes, I was a referee for wrestling because my son wrestled, and a coach, basketball coach for my daughter. But I was all these things, but I wasn't sure who was Sandee, who really was Sandee. So in the ages of 40, I met my husband now, blessed, met him, lost family members, lost my kid's father, and I had to rediscover who did I want to be. And during all that, I realized that I was becoming an empty nester. That was a big thing. That was a big struggle because not only did I like have one move out, it was like I had all three at once move out. So I became an immediate empty nester, and that was a struggle for me. But then I realized I'm good. I have a new life. Who do I want? Who does Sandy want to be this next half of life? And like I said, it had a lot to do with me taking on care of my mother-in-law, Lily Mae. I love that name, Lily Mae. Hopefully, one of my kids will name a child Lily Mae. Um, but taking care of her and helping her and being honored to be in her presence, because I talk a lot about that. I was very honored to be with her and learning that she had to recreate herself when her husband died 20 some years ago. And she did. And she had a whole library of self-help books. And we would talk about that. So that's not what this episode is all about, but I'm telling you about who I am. Because a couple of weeks ago, now it's been a couple of months ago, someone asked, what is the magic wand? Like, I know she plays with it with the music, but what the magic wand is something I also do with my clients. If this was a magic wand and I could change anything about you, what would it be? What would this magic wand change? And then we work on that. So and there's that word change. So tonight's episode is all about change. And what change is, and I'm going to read you about this episode. Why do we hate change? Who really likes change? Change has been occurring since the dawn of time, but that doesn't mean we have to like it. Did you know that change can be good for our mental health? Did you know that fear is linked to change? Are you familiar with muscle memory? Let's learn to embrace change together. So that's what tonight's episode is all about, is that thing called change. And today in Kundalini, Wednesdays are my day. I do Kundalini. I do a lot of things for myself. I changed my routines, and Wednesdays is dedicated to Sandee. It is like my day off for Sandee, and that's something I changed because it's midweek, it's hump day, and man, is it great to have this day to embrace that. But today, what she said really resonated with me, and I wish I would have had this before I would have written up for this episode. But it's magical how the universe comes and gives me the messages I want for my show. You grow through, now I'm probably going to say it wrong. Growth happens through change. We grow when we're going through change. We grow. We learn. We don't realize what we're learning when we go through change. But think about this. I want everybody to take a moment and think about how many changes did we go through as children? As children, that we had no choice but to embrace, but we were resilient and we just went, and we went on. Sometimes, yes, we were hesitant, but a lot of times we became resilient and we just went with the flow. We went with the flow. But that's what I'm saying. And as adults, sometimes we're like, oh, change, I hate change. And we get really in that nervous system and we just get all anxious around change. But as children, we changed. Think about this. We came out of our mom's womb and we had to learn to walk. We had to learn to talk. We had to learn to do all these magnificent things that as adults we do take for granted. And then we started school. Then every year, depending on how your school system is, right now where I live in Richmond, Virginia, we are going back to school. Yes, there are some schools that are testing being 12-month schools where they have off, but they're all going back. They all just went back. And it's that transition, too, that everyone's going through here in town. You don't realize now you got to put that extra 5 minutes in your schedule because you're going to get behind a bus at some point. That is a big change. We get frustrated with that. But let's go back. Children, we go to school. Every year we change. Sometimes we are fortunate enough to have that teacher more than once. But a lot of times we had to change teachers. And if we really liked a teacher, it was sad to leave and have to have another teacher. And then during the summer, let's say we met that great friend or we got to go. I spent a lot of my summers in Jersey and Massachusetts, family. My summers were spent with my family, mainly with my grandparents, but we traveled during the summer and I got to spend some of it with my aunts and uncles. But I met kids I really liked during the summer. Well, then guess what? I had to come back to Virginia and go to school. And then think about this. Sometimes you change schools because of districting. So now you have different friends. So think about all the times, like really think about after this conversation, how many times in your life you had to go through a change and why as an adult do we really rebel against it? When sometimes change is good. Actually, change is very good for us because we grow. We grow when we go through change. We grow. Think about that. We grow. We're like a plant being nourished and watered, and we're growing as change comes. And I know a lot of companies, that's a lot of their values, embrace change. I worked for 2 companies that embrace change, and it was always like, does everyone really want to embrace change? But I'm different. I did embrace those changes because I knew there was something better. Whenever we changed something, it might have, I'm going to say the word sucked to go through it because if you're learning a new system, but then that system became easier and better and faster. But in the beginning, did we see that? No. We were like, I don't want to learn something new. But now let's go back to us as children. Think about all the changes. Not only did we change, teachers every year, possibly friends, now we change schools. We're now going from elementary to middle school or secondary school, depending on how people say it. Then there's high school. But now think about our bodies and ourselves. We went through physical changes growing up. 1 minute we're this petite child, the next minute we could be this bigger child. Then we hit puberty. So we went through all these magnificent changes to create who we are now. Did we rebel? Did we go, ugh, I hate growing up? Now as an adult, I say that. Yes, I hate growing up. I wish I was a child again, but I really don't. I went through a lot of trauma as a child, and if I knew now what I knew then or knew then what I knew now, be totally different. I could say, you know what, we're good. We're going to be good. Just bear with it. But now we're changing schools, we're changing teachers, we're changing friends. Mom and dad gets a divorce. That sucks. Now we're changing that, which means possibly a move. Now let's think about if one of your parents were military and you went 4 years in Germany, 4 years in Taiwan, or 4 years in another country, and you had to learn another language. So think about that change that some people's gone through. The divorce or just the careers or your parents, you had to move. I don't think you really had a say in all of that. No, I'm not moving with you. A lot of us said we're running away, did run away, but came back because we didn't like change. But think about that. And then our bodies changed. We went through that thing called puberty and we were in middle school. A lot of people say high school is the worst. I really want to say middle school is the worst, but it's whatever you think because it's whatever maybe you went through the most change or the most resentment or the most pushback or maybe even trauma. But think about that. As children, we changed. Even sizes, we changed every year. Sometimes we had to get new school stuff every year because our size was different. And that was a big thing too. Every year we had to go shopping before school started. That was a change because sometimes we changed our hair, our look, how we dressed. We wanted to be one of the cool kids, so I got to dress this way. So We went through a lot of changes. Could that be why we are resilient as adults to change? Get into that when we come back from a break. We're going to go on our first break. You were listening to Sandee Byrd on the Emotional Elevator on Inspired Choices Network. And if you're listening to me on any platforms, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you can, because I'd really love to hear your comments. Or if you ever want to reach out to me, my email, my professional email, probably going to change, but it's Sandee Byrd Coach, and that's Sandee with two E's, Byrd with a Y, coach@gmail.com. Or you can email me at sandy@emotionalelevator.com. And if you want to follow me on any social media platform, it's Sandee with the two E's, Steenstra with an ST and two E's, Byrd. You can follow me. And I am Sandee Steenstra Byrd in RVA on Instagram. But reach out to me if you want to talk about what I can do to help you rediscover who you are, or if you're just looking for a change and you want to embrace it and how you can make those changes within yourself. But let's go to that break now.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back. Of course, you are listening to the good old me, Sandee Byrd, on Emotional Elevator here on Inspired Choices Network. Tonight, I'm talking all about change and why do we hate it? Because it affects our whole entire body. And I first started talking, and I talked a lot about the first part of the show about kids. As kids, we have a lot of changes. We change schools, we change teachers, we change friends. Sometimes our parents get a divorce, so we have to change where we live. Sometimes our parents are in the military, so we got to change the countries we actually live in and learn different languages or different. I mean, think about that. Military families, I wanted to say military brats. I'm technically, I'm in military. My dad was Coast Guard, but we didn't move around. But my parents did get divorced. My mom lived in the state of Virginia. My family all lived in New Jersey, and my father lived in Florida. Tell me, I went through a lot of changes, and I learned to love flying on an airplane at a very young age and learned to hate riding in a car, Virginia, Florida. Picture this, 3 kids around the ages of 10, maybe 11, down to 6, me being the 6-year-old, in the back of a Chevy convertible from the upstate New York, driving back to Florida. Just imagine that. Picture that. this day and age, it would never be heard of unless you're in a minivan and spread out. But we were in a convertible Chevy. And trust me, if you complain, the top stayed down even when it was getting cold. So, just telling you, I learned to embrace change. But that's what I'm saying. Like, as kids, we became resilient. We became, just change happened, even in our bodies, even in our minds, how we thought, how we acted, if we wanted, what made us cool. So think about that. We went through all that. And then as adults, the first time we have to deal with change as we get older, because I think we embrace change up until about 20 or 30. And then it's like, change. I don't want to embrace change. When we get into that career and you learn that the company you're working for, its value is embrace change. And you're like, what does that mean? And then we get the new software at the company. And we're like, what? I have to learn something new. I excel at this. Now I got to learn a new program. Oh my gosh, this sucks. And we hate it. But then we learn it and we realize that it's faster, it's better. But as I've mentioned on this podcast, I'm a coach now that works with self-development, trauma, and midlife rediscovery, which is all about changing who we are, the beliefs, things that we no longer embrace within ourselves, we're changing. But my corporate career was in retail restaurant management, from HR to front end to general managers. That's what I did for the majority of my adult life to feed 3 children. And what always gets me is when I managed restaurants and I was a food and beverage manager and things had to change. And people threw like temper tantrums. What do you mean you don't have that salmon on the menu anymore? That's the only reason why I come. Well, we changed it. Are we really going to get into, well, the reason we changed it is because the price of salmon went up to this. We don't feel like we can raise it up to here, and the quality is not where it used. No, we're not going to tell. We just changed. Same thing as this is something that I wanted to talk about in retail establishments. Your favorite store, Walmart, Target, your favorite grocery store, you go in and they've rearranged it. And you're like, oh my God, now I can't find the spaghetti sauce. Where's the spaghetti sauce? The biggest thing was always coffee and tea, but I said spaghetti sauce. And everyone's screaming and yelling, why do you got to do that? Muscle memory. The main reason every store does this, and if you've never heard this, you're going to be enlightened, is it's for also muscle memory. Because how many times can you walk in to a store and walk directly to what it is you want in a grocery store, get it, and then you can leave? But you don't see all the new products. So they change it up to help your muscle memory. Because if your muscle memory is conditioned to know it's on aisle 12B on the right-hand side, and you go to the aisle and now it's soups. And you're looking and go, man, I've never seen that soup before. Oh, wow. I really want to try this. That's why they do it too. And what does muscle memory help with? Alzheimer's and dementia. So I was fortunate to be in a class, Flow Research, 2 years ago, 3 years ago maybe. And that's what we talked about, is muscle memory and how we are all so conditioned to do things so many ways, and maybe go to the same workout class and maybe go to the same store and maybe drive the same way, that we don't have to think about things anymore. So we are not regenerating that muscle memory. So think about that when it comes to when a place changes or a menu changes, or the salmon that you really like, which is a honey glazed salmon, is now not. If you ask them, a lot of times, if they're still selling that piece of salmon, they can make that glaze, because if they still have honey on the menu. but it's that they want you to try new things. They want you to help you with your muscle memory. But we don't see it that way. What we see it as a nervous system reaction. And I put up a lot about the nervous system, and that's what I learned about this morning as I talked about, we did Kundalini around change and transition. And it does affect our nervous system because a lot of us, when it comes to change, depending on some trauma or how our brain functions, our nervous system, sympathetic, will already go to the fight or flight. We already want to go to that fight or flight mode where we're like, I don't want change. Ooh, I hate this place. I'm never going to come in here again. That's fight or flight. But then sometimes we sit there and we realize it's parasympathetic where we're relaxed. Oh my gosh, this place changed and this is so much better. Look at how light the walls are and how inviting it is. Have you ever gone to a restaurant, and I've worked for them and managed for them and trained for them, where they have everything all over the place? And the one right now I can think of is Cracker Barrel. But I worked for some where there was always so much around that it was like you didn't know what to order because you were so fascinated by, oh my gosh, look at that on the wall, look at this, look at that. And you were so overstimulated that it didn't matter what the food tastes like. Some restaurants, that was their whole philosophy, was if you came in and you saw something new each time, you sat in a different place and you was this or that, you were so overstimulated, the food could suck and you would still enjoy it because you were overstimulated by the atmosphere. And then they would change these restaurants to be more subtle and soothing. And then you realize you really don't like the food. That's because as those establishments, what are they doing? They're changing for you to start working on different parts of your nervous system or your muscle memory. Everyone does it. Think about a gym. You go every Wednesday, Kundalini, I've already said that. If it changed, would I be as happy? No, but let's say it was, she had to change to a different day. So there was this other yoga, maybe a tantrum yoga that I really like too, or a static dance during that hour. And I walked in and, oh my gosh, Kundalini's not here, but it was something else I enjoyed or something I've never tried before. And I liked it. And that's what a lot of even gyms do, where they change their schedule sometimes, or they change the format of the class, or they change how they teach the class because they want you to get into change and how it can affect your nervous system and your muscle memory. Because we as adults get so conditioned and so robotic that we don't see change. And then when change happens in our personal life, we are overwhelmed, very much overwhelmed. So think about, and I'll continue this, think about some time when something had to change for you. A job. You might have lost a job. And you lost that job and you walk out and you're like, oh my God, now what am I going to do? I just lost my job. And someone goes, well, congratulations. And you're like, congratulations? I just lost my job. I have 3 kids. I got to feed them. How am I going to feed my 3 kids? Congratulations, because now there's something better for you. But you don't see it. And you're already reacting in that sympathetic nervous system where you're like, oh my gosh, fight or flight. I got to fight. I got to fight. I got to fight. But if you just sat back and relaxed and said, you know what? Change is good because now I'm going to get a better job. Now I know my worth and I'm going to go in and smash the next interview and get what I deserve to make. And a lot of us don't even go for those promotions because we're so afraid of that change. Because we don't realize that even though we might get anxious and nervous and, oh my gosh, and then we go in that interview and we're so nervous and that, but we say the right answers. We kill it and we get that job. But some people don't even want to go for it because they're afraid of that change. Because sometimes in change, we only see rejection. We don't see the positive of it. So change has many different layers to it. But as I've already said, and what I learned today, you grow through change. You grow through change. So it is time for our second break. And we're going to go to this break. But like I say, if you are on any platform, please like and subscribe. And anytime you want to have an open conversation with me, come over here on Inspired Choices Network and join that chat room. Because I would love to have some questions come. But if you're a little nervous because some of my topics, then reach out to me at Sandee with those 2 E's, Byrd, BYRD, coach@gmail.com. Follow me on any social platform. But look, if you're ready to make that change and embrace it in your life, I am the person for you because I coach people through changes in life, developing who you want to be, figuring out those values and beliefs that are yours and not been conditioned in you. Maybe you're trying to figure out what really is my purpose in life. What is my passion? Do a vision walk. Because let me tell you something. I've done 3 vision walks within the last few years, and they all have been the same. I just realized it last night. But what I'm saying is change can be good. You might feel it in your nervous system as kind of a fight or flight. But then when you just sit back and go, oh yeah, I can breathe. You can relax. And that's what I'm here for, to work with you on that. So we are going to go on that break. And you are listening to Sandee Byrd on Emotional Elevator on the Inspired Choices Network. And thank you for joining me tonight.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to Sandee@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back. I am Sandee Byrd. I am the host here at Emotional Elevator, and you are listening to me on Inspired Choices Network. And I have my wand out because whatever you want to change in your life, I'm letting you change it, and my wand is to help you change it. But something else dawned on me when we talk about change and not embracing change. Aging. Think about that. When we start getting older. I am 55. Like I already said, I'm proud of that. And I've gone through some major changes in my life, and I'm still changing. I'm still evolving into who it is I want to be for the next half of my life. Because like I've already said, I was caring for my mother-in-law, Lily Mae Byrd, who I've mentioned a lot of times on this show. And she passed away during the month of August. And it has been a change for me because I don't have that routine anymore. So I've grieved. I've had some healthy grief through this, but I also had to realize now my routine changes. And what am I going to do? But I realized that I was thinking about negatively about the changes and not positively about the changes. Like I put something out there like the second weekend of August, like August 10th. I think I put out a post that Sunday, so that was 11th, that that was the first night I slept in my own bed for 2 years on a Saturday night. Or if I slept in my bed, my husband wasn't in the bed. But Saturday nights, I never slept in my bed I never slept in my bed. I think there was like maybe 3 times because my husband either had COVID or I was really sick. Sickness. The only reason why I couldn't be over there caring for my mother-in-law. Or if I was traveling, because I do travel. And I realized that. And it was I couldn't sleep. I had anxiety. I couldn't sleep. And what's wrong with me? Why am I feeling this way? What's going on? Why can't I sleep? And I got very anxious, and I realized because I wasn't used to it. But now I am, and I sleep just fine. But that was a change I had to go through, that I had to realize that I had to actually identify, why am I not able to sleep? Why am I anxious? Because my body wasn't used to being in my own bed on a Saturday night, and I was anxious because I felt like I was forgetting something. Well, I wasn't. She was gone. And then during some of the grieving process, I was like, oh my God, I'm feeling for myself. And then I'm realizing I'm able to get parasympathetic to my nervous system, go, I get to do other things now. I get to do this, or I get to do that, or now I can focus on this and I can focus on that. And that made a big difference. And that's what change is about. Change can be good and change can be bad, but it's how we react to it and how we get our body to calm down to it. A lot of us, when something happens where there's a change, whether it's a divorce or empty nesting, or all of a sudden we have to be caregivers for our parents, we go through this change and our body starts getting sick, or we start getting, ugh. And that's just reaction to change because we fought some of it before in our life. So our body knows fight or flight. Or if we've always embraced change, then we're parasympathetic and we're just like, oh, it's just change. Or it's nothing. It's just a change in my routine. Some people react like that. But I started on a topic and I think I got off the subject. We're aging. We go through stages in life as children, puberty. And now as you get 55, you start looking down going, wow, what's going on with my body now? It's changing. And you know what? It's when you can love yourself and embrace yourself and hug yourself. And that is a big thing that I do in my laughter yoga. And I tell my clients all the time, when was the last time you gave yourself a hug? So everybody, just give yourself a big hug and embrace it. Embrace the changes. As women, when we gain 5 pounds, it's the end of the world in our lives. But it's really not. It's really not. But we see changes as this negative. As women, if you've been a mother or if you've gone through the transition of having a baby, that can be a change in your whole metabolic system. I know I went through different phases with each one of my kids, different changes. I went through different even things I liked with being pregnant with my kids, but there was changes that my body went through after that. There's major changes that my body went through. I've had some medical changes, but it's embracing it. So now let's talk about embracing changes. How do we embrace change when we really don't want change? We start evidence list. When was the last time someone taught me it's called an evidence list? So I like that term, evidence list, where you write down change. When was the last time I went through a change? And how did it affect me? And you write down the good. And you just continue to say, okay, during that, wow, this came about. I was able to handle it. And you start seeing that you can evolve and grow and embrace change. Because the only way in life to really, really change and evolve is to embrace it. Doesn't mean I'm saying, wow, change is good. Yes, thumbs up. It's great. Can't wait. But start changing little things in your life. Because when I start working with clients, one of the biggest things I get them to do is go outside their comfort zone. And that is major change. So when I go sometimes to certain places, I go like in a circle. I'll go right, and then coming home, I'll go left. And a couple of times I'll go the opposite just to change. And as I've already mentioned, a lot of reasons why you need to change some of your habits and change the way you do some things and change up things in your life is because your muscle memory. You start building up that muscle memory, which when we don't use it, we lose it. It's the same thing as muscle in our body. If we don't use the muscle, if we're not doing something active like I'm trying to do right now, so if you're listening to me, you're not seeing I'm raising my hands over my head and doing all that. If we don't do that, and you can hear I'm trying to get my heart rate up a little bit. If we don't do that, we lose it. If we don't use the muscles, we lose it. It's the same thing for our muscle memory, our brain matter, the memory in our brains. If we don't use it, we lose it. And a lot of it is because we get so conditioned. Once we get to be adults, I'm going to go right. Okay, when I come back, I'll go left. Oh, yeah, the spaghetti is on 12B. Oh, I know if I go to this restaurant, they're going to have that salmon I really like, so I don't even have to think about it. And you don't even look at the menu, and then you go to order it, and they say, oh, it's not there. And then you go to that aisle 12B to look for the spaghetti sauce, and there's soups there. And you're all freaked out. And you're in that fight or flight mode, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Let me go to the next store. And then they're changing it. Because they all seem to do it around the same time. They all do it. Sometimes we're not focused enough to see that they're doing it, or we just embrace it, and then the next store we don't embrace it or whatever. But it also helps with our muscle memory, and it helps us to regulate our nervous system. We just don't see that because we're too frustrated in that change. And when places change or a product gets discontinued, or a retail store stops carrying a particular brand, people get all up. They get their penis in a wad, as everybody likes to say. But we get frustrated. But maybe it's because there's another brand out there that's better. Or it might not even be their fault. It might be the brand pulled themselves because they're not making enough because you're the only person buying it. So you got to think about that. But it's also to help you continue to build up your muscle memory, which in turn is going to help your brain for the rest of your life. So what I was trying to say is when I start working with clients, I test them. Have you ever gone a different route to work? Well, I want you to go a different route to work. Well, why would I want to do that? I always go this way. That might take me an extra 5 minutes. Yeah, but I want you to go that way to see if you're able to embrace change. Because if you're coming to work with me and you're not able just to go a different way to work, I know you're not going to want to do the steps to embrace change. It's a simple tool. Also, when it comes down to embracing something that they want to change, like a value that they now realize at 50 years old is not the same value. They don't really believe that it's one of their values. And we go through the whole value thing, and they find out that is not one of their values, but it's so ingrained in them. So we got to take steps to change that value. And how do we do it? By testing it out, which requires change. I always tell people one of the biggest things that I changed, because I have lived a life hypervigilant and in fight or flight mode, that when I was challenged, gosh, it's been 3 years ago, to go eat by myself, it took me a few months to change my brain to do that. And I love doing it. And I embrace it now. And that's one of the things when I start working with someone, I challenge them. Hey, have you ever gone out to eat by yourself? I mean, sit down, nice restaurant, by yourself and eat. Table for one, or at the bar, or wherever you would feel most comfortable at, and eat. And if not, that resistance. I still have 3 children that I'm like, oh, I'll just go. I'll go eat there by myself. You're gonna go by yourself, Mom? I don't want you to go by yourself. Oh, now you're making me feel guilty. No, I really looked forward to going to eat, so I'm gonna go. And it's that where I have realized that it guides them too to be able to do it for themselves. Because one of the things that I always did on Saturday nights, and this is going back to my mother-in-law, what I used to always do on Saturday nights, my husband did the first half of time with her, that 6 to 9 or 6 to 8, and he got dinner and they ate dinner together and they had their time together, and then I would come over. But I would go out to eat by myself. Usually the same restaurant, and then everyone would say, why didn't you invite me? Well, because it's my time. That's my time for myself, to enjoy myself, to love myself, to embrace myself, to embrace the change that I've made within myself to do. So there's little techniques when you're working with me as a coach that I challenge you to do when it comes to learning to embrace change, to help you change and develop who it is you want to become. So, oh my gosh, I'm running out of time. Break time. Oh my gosh, I'm just babbling on. But we're going to go on our last break. And you are listening to Sandee Byrd on Emotional Elevator on the Inspired Choices Network. If you want, reach out to me at any time at sandeebirdcoach@gmail.com. But we are going to go to that break. And we will be right back.
Are you living a life of psychological trauma or suffering from an addiction? Are you ready to learn new techniques to elevate your emotions without sustaining or obtaining them from substances that are not good for your mind or body? Then continue to tune into Emotional Elevator with trauma, addiction, life, and spiritual coach, Sandee Byrd, where you will learn techniques to elevate your emotions that don't require a magic pill, food, or impulsive behavior. Listen to Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific, on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is Emotional Elevator with Sandee Byrd. To participate in this program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also send an email to sandy@emotionalelevator.com. Now, back to the program.
Well, welcome back. Tonight is all about the Tonight has been all about change. And why do we hate change? But I've gone into, as children, we have to go through many changes. We change schools, we change, our bodies change, our minds change, our friends change. We go through changes every year. Teachers, and yet then when we become adults, we become stagnant. And the biggest thing that I taught myself is change is good. I can embrace change. And yes, I used to work for corporate America where that was values. And I would be like, why is this always a value? Everybody hates change. But then I realized I actually embrace change because I have been able to recreate who I am and develop the person I want to be. And as I've mentioned, a lot of that has to do with the 2 years I spent with my 100-and-a-half-year-old mother-in-law who recently passed away. But I got to realize that when I started thinking about this at 50, and she was 95, 95, I still could have 45 years. Did I want to stay the same person? And now I realize when that all started at 50, she lived to 100-and-a-half. I saw about half a life that I could have left. And did I want to stay that person? No, but what I had to do was embrace change. And that's what working with me. And that's why when I talk about this wand, so if you're listening to me and you've never seen the wand is something that I say, if I could change one thing right now with this wand, what would it be? And that is change. I don't say, what would you like to feel different if we embrace change? No. What would you like to change? And it's always something you want to change, but you don't know the steps to take to change it. And that's what working with a self-development coach like me is it's all about taking steps. And it's not about jumping in and figuring out how can I change because this value is no longer mine. It's doing baby steps. Let's write evidence lists to corroborate that change, or I'm going to ask you to change how you drive to work every day. Change where you go to get your cup of coffee. Change if you've never gone out to eat by yourself and asked for a table for one. Little things that can create very sympathetic nervous system responses, that fight or flight. Or you could be parasympathetic and you're like relaxed and it's okay. But in life, it's all going to be changing. I'm 55 and trust me, I do not have the same body I had at 25. Same hair, maybe a little bit better. But because I embrace the change going on with my body, I'm more comfortable and satisfied with myself. So if you want to embrace this change and you want to start loving changing yourself, reach out to me at sandeebyrd.com, which is my website, which is going through a transition. It's going through a change. But right now, the old one's up. We're working on the new one to get that up. Or reach out to me at Sandee with those 2 E's, the Byrd with a Y, coach at gmail.com. Follow me on all social media, Sandee Steenstra Byrd. That has not changed. That's still part of my name, Sandee Steenstra Byrd. On Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on everything. And if you're listening to me, like and subscribe. If you can, leave a comment if you're on any platforms. But if you have any questions about changing, reach out to me because I would love to help you embrace change in life because you grow through what you go through, and that is change. You grow through what you go through. Change. So let's embrace it together. And thank you again for listening to me tonight on Emotional Elevator on the Inspired Choices Network. Good night.
Thank you for listening to the Emotional Elevator Show. Sandee returns Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, start elevating your emotions and stop riding the emotional elevator that is stopping you from living the life you deserve.